Welcome everyone, my name is Brendan Snyder. Thank you for joining me. If you're new to my channel and you haven't already hit the subscribe button, please click the button for me. It would greatly help me out. It helps support my channel. Also leave a comment, hit the like button, all those things help. And as an added bonus, you'll be able to stay up to date on all that's going on in the world of music. Just like this. This is a new Midnight Oil album called the Makarrata Project. It just came out on October 30th of 2020. It's their 12th studio album overall. But the band, they go back to 1972, and it wasn't until a year later after they formed that Peter Garrett, lead singer, was added. And then in 1976, they changed their name to Midnight Oil. So at 1976, they officially become Midnight Oil. And then 2 years later, they released their self-titled debut album. But fast forward a little bit until 1987, that's when they sort of really garnered worldwide attention with their album Diesel and Dust. And this one here, like many of their albums and songs, focused on the struggles of the indigenous Australian people. That's going to play in a little bit when we talk more about the Makarrata Project, which I'll get to. The main single off of Diesel and Dust was The Beds Are Burning. It went all the way to number 17 on the Billboard Hot 100, and ultimately the album was certified platinum in the US. And in 1990, the band continued its success by releasing Blue Sky Mining, another really great album by them, one of my personal favorites. And this one here was even more defiant and outspoken than their previous album, sort of really bringing the band into its own. The album ultimately was certified gold. And then the band released 4 more albums, culminating in 2002's Capricornia. And so in the same year, in December of that year, Peter Garrett, lead singer, announced his decision to quit the band and to focus on his political career. And I always found that story really interesting. You had a band and a singer who, sung about protesting things, bringing awareness to things, making political statements, and he actually quits the band in order to take on a political career. And so in 2004, the election, as part of the Australian Labor Party, he actually wins a seat in the Australian Senate. And then in 2007, he's named the Minister for Environment and Heritage and the Arts. And so I just really always found that amazing, that somebody who goes from being a frontman in a rock band, trying to bring awareness to things, actually takes on political office where he is making real political change on the forefront like that. And so it wasn't then until 2009 that the band actually reunited for a show, but there weren't any concrete plans made at the time in order for them to continue. So it wasn't until 2016 when finally Midnight Oil officially reformed and began a tour in 2017, which brings us to the present day, which we want to talk about this new release here, the Makarrata Project. And so, as I said, it's been 18 long years since their last release, Capricornia, in 2002. And while this is being referred to as an album, it's really just a mini album, as it only has 7 tracks on it. It is their 12th studio album, though. And a little bit of background on what the Makarrata Project is. So in 2017, the Uluru Statement from the Heart called for the establishment of a First Nation voice and the establishment of a Makarrata Commission that would supervise the agreement made between governments and the Aboriginal and island peoples. And so the word Makarrata itself means a coming together after a struggle. And so this here is intended to really bring a voice for the original inhabitants of the Australian continent itself and the island peoples that surround it, give them that voice within the government. And so the 7 songs on here and the album itself focus on the Uluru Statement and what they're asking to be done on this. And it also features collaborations with Indigenous artists and First Nation peoples, which I find to be the most interesting aspect of this, is that collaboration between the two. But while the album itself is under the Midnight Oil banner on here, because the collaborations sometimes take over the typical Midnight Oil sound on it, I'm really looking at this more as like a double A-side release with a bunch of B-sides as opposed to that idea of mini album. And let me explain that a little bit more. So like track number 1, First Nation on here, it's everything I love about a Midnight Oil song. It's dark, it's brooding, it's got classic harmonies on it. And track 2, Gadigal Land, is a typical anthemic Midnight Oil type song on here. It's got a really big chorus. They add a brass horn section to it that makes it even bigger. And so these two tracks right here are typical classic Midnight Oil songs. But now as we move through this album, it features Peter Garrett singing on the first 3 songs, but the next 2 songs on here are actually sung by collaborators. They're not sung by Peter Garrett. And along with track 3, musically, these 2 songs that are sung by the collaborators, plus the 3rd track, are not typical Midnight Oil songs. They take a sidestep into gospel and folk, things like that. Track 6, Peter Garrett returns on lead vocals. However, for track 7, it's a reading of the Uluru Statement, but about 2.5 minutes towards the end of it, the closing of it, it finally changes over into a song itself. But I feel like that song really should have been a separate track. It should have been the 8th track on here, not something that was grouped in with this spoken word portion. If they had separated it out, I actually think it would have been a stronger thing. But for the flow of the album, I feel like that last track that's tacked on to the end should have been the 7th track, and the spoken word part could have been at the end of this. However, I understand what they were trying to do here, and I think if you look at this album more like it's a soundtrack, it works much better. Thinking of it and the different styles of music that are on here, the different vocalists that are performing on here, the spoken word part, looking at it like that more than just a Midnight Oil musical album. Let's take a look at this. This is the front cover of it. I really like the way they've done this, the red and the black, and the statement that's written up here and everything like that. There's the spine and the back side. Here's the track listing, and then it's got all the guest people from the Indigenous artists and the First Nations people guesting on it there. And then this is the inside, and you get a little bit more track breakdown there on the back side of the booklet. The CD, let me pop that out for you guys. You can take a look what's underneath it there. And let me pull out the booklet too. The booklet's mostly just lyrics in here. So I'll go through that. But the middle of this here has a map of the tribal languages of the different groups, which I think is really interesting, locates them, diagrammatically on the continent of Australia. So kind of interesting that they show that there, try to give a representation of it. And then again, there's the back side of this. So bottom line for this album here, I think the first 2 tracks are absolutely excellent on this. However, I'm not looking at this as that long-awaited album that we've been waiting on for nearly 20 years, because what I found out is that they actually recorded 20 songs during these sessions. And the remaining 13 tracks that didn't make this here are actually going to appear on a full-length album that is due out in early 2021. So for me, I'm going to enjoy this mini album for what it is, let it whet my appetite, and I'm going to look forward to that full-length album that will come out next year. All right, I hope you guys enjoyed this, and if you did, please remember to comment, like, and subscribe. Let me know your thoughts, and I hope everyone has a great day. Take care. Bye-bye.